Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Today we're going to talk basically about Jaxson, Dart, and Michael Trigg. That'll be the whole show. If you're looking for stuff about Ole Miss's big win over Florida, there's a post-game pod with that you can go listen to at the moment. We're trying not to be overly redundant, so it's different places. Also, if something happens between now and the time we record to where what we're about to say is outdated, we are going to do an extra video for you guys, 10 to 12 minutes talking about Michael Trigg and Jaxson Dart, should they commit. Remember, they're on the West Coast. It is, at the moment, 6:30 Pacific time. So there's a lot of night left to go. It's 9:40 here. It's going to be 10 o'clock in quite a bit. So we're going to talk about what Lane has been up to today and the recruiting process. We're going to talk about how we should look at this recruiting class moving forward, and we're going to talk about the offensive weapons and how this offense could look moving forward. But anyway, this is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I am your host, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much for tuning in. We got a lot of stuff to get to today and a lot of things that we're going to talk about, so just bear with us on that. But first, I want to tell you today's episode is brought to you by Sonos. Experience the game like never before with Sonos Arc, the premium smart soundbar for TV, movies, music, gaming, and more. Visit Sonos.com to learn more. Also, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, which do us a favor, hit subscribe, hit the bell, and hit an upvote if you don't mind as well. So, kind of an interesting day. It feels like a lot happened today, but not very much happened today. So keep an eye on what's going on. A lot could still happen today. At 9:30 at night Pacific time, if they decide to commit, it will be 12:30 Eastern time here, and I will be asleep. That's the reason I say if something happens in between the time I record and tomorrow morning, I will record a bonus extra episode. We're going to do what we call extras. And whenever those are needed, we'll do like little short videos of extras. And our debut is probably, if it's going to happen, the Jaxson Dart and Michael Trigg commitments. It should, and if it happens. So we tell you all the time, we're not a news organization. We are a commentary organization. We're a perspectives organization. We tell you what's going on and what's going to happen. We translate it for you because I've been inside the Manning Center talking about that. And I've been 10 years in the national media talking about that. So I understand exactly what's going on, and I'm not going to try to let you get confused and everything about what's going on. So what's going on right now is I believe the impediments have been mostly cleared, at least cleared out to the point where you can register and decisions can be made. The most important one is that I think it is settled that Caleb Williams is done at Oklahoma, which means he's going to transfer to SC. This weekend, he moved out of his dorm room in Oklahoma and planning on LA. All the signs are moving there. They're worried about tampering and things like that, but that's not overly important. The fact of the matter is, just because you don't know what's going on does not mean they do not know what's going on. So as we speak right now, Jaxson Dart and Michael Trigg are moving out of their apartments in LA. That means they're going somewhere. Where are they going? Well, Scott Schrader and Zach Berry have put in RPMs recently for Ole Miss, for Jaxson Dart and Michael Trigg. They think they're going to Ole Miss. It makes sense they're going to Ole Miss, and this is what I think happened. Now that impediment of Caleb Williams is out of the way, Ole Miss hired, I think his name's Zane Cook. Excuse me if I butchered his name. I'm just trying to remember. I know his first name's Zane because of Zane and Lane. They hired him as an analyst. He was one of the guys that worked with the quarterbacks at SC. That's another barrier that was broken down. Now, if you look at what's going on, the bureaucracy of getting into school, I could get into school at Ole Miss right now if they had my transcript in 15 minutes. There is some bureaucracy and things that has to be done. I think last week the transcripts and everything, all of that was put into motion. It was all based on the hiring of this coach, Caleb Williams, and all of this stuff that was going around, because you need to be careful, because this is your one-time transfer. This is your important transfer. And because of that, this has moved on very slow. Now, a lot of people think this is moving on too slow. We're in an instant gratification world. I mean, it is what it is, but it's worth noting that you're kind of, stuck in the possession, because there's certain things that's going to take a little bit of time. And waiting on several dominoes to fall and enroll in college is going to take a little bit of time. So I think those dominoes got through, and we are now on commitment watch. Now, another thing is Lane Kiffin is visiting tonight. The rumor is he's using his in-home visit, flying out to Los Angeles, probably going to help Dart and Trigg move out of their apartment, do all of that stuff. But I think the signal was, this is just my opinion, I think the signal was, when you see me come out here, we're done. We're at a point where we can move forward. I'm not going to come out and see you until we're done. But whenever you see me, you can rest assured that we are ready to go on our end. And the commitment watch that you're seeing on different sites and all over Twitter, that makes sense. But you take those dominoes and knock them out of the way, and you just move on to the next stuff moving forward. And I think he could actually get this done either tonight or tomorrow morning. I think he should be in class by Wednesday, potentially. So BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. New year and new updated desktop and mobile website. To sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, now that we talked about what's gone on today, or yesterday, I should say. Now let's talk about hypothetically what this looks like moving forward. And the first thing is, how do we view this class? This is a new thing, a newfangled thing. Whenever you looked at the recruiting, Ole Miss came in at 23rd, 24th, somewhere in that ballpark. Right now, their overall rankings in the mid-teens. This one should put them in possibly the top 10. How do we view this class? And I think the answer is quite simple. With these transfers, you are going to bring 11 4-stars into camp that you didn't already have. To put that in perspective, in 2013, Ole Miss signed 10 4-stars. This class that was generational and changed everything. And 2 of those 4-stars was Ryan Buchanan and Devontae Kincaid. But looking at what's going on with those, you have that. So you've upgraded the talent. Now you take some of the 3-stars and you have a 3-time all-conference player. You have really good 3-stars that maybe have not elevated to the point where people have started to notice, but are really good players. If you take them into account, this class gets a lot of depth. Anyway, thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Please subscribe and hit the bell. All right. So this matches it up favorably with the generational 2013 class. Everybody talks about the generational 2013 class. Ole Miss beat Alabama twice. They made a Sugar Bowl for the first time, 669. It was the class. And it had Laramie Tunsil, who is the best left tackle in the history of the school. Laquan Treadwell, who was a fantastic receiver. And Robert Kimdichie, who, if we're being honest about it, Laquan and Laramie are not here if it wasn't for Robert Kimdichie. And Robert Kimdichie wasn't here if it wasn't for Denzel. But those players became the benchmarks of a very, very highly rated class that really put Ole Miss on the map. When we were signing that class, I was actually embedded with James Franklin at Vanderbilt. There with, I think it was me and Pat Forty, actually, going over what was going on because Vandy was kind of rolling at that point. And you just saw him come in. And you could see James Franklin's face whenever each person would announce for Ole Miss. More and more panic kind of entered his expression. That was kind of interesting to me, especially for, I think in 2012, that was the Jordan Rodgers year. Yeah, that was the Jordan Rodgers year. And they came back and beat Ole Miss in Oxford. 2013, the game was at Vanderbilt, and that was the KJ Carter Samuels year. So we have that going on. That this class, my point is this class compares favorably to the 2013 class. Now, you take Jaxson Dart, Michael Trigg, you take Ashim Young, because Tony Connor was also a part of that class as well. Mason Brooks, another very underrated player, Mason Brooks. And you have the makings of a similar type class to the 2013 class. Now, the benefit of the 2013 class is you had 3 years, which would have been 13, 14, and 15. 2 of those, they ended up in the 2 Access Bowls, Peach Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. And they also played in the Music City Bowl. So I think this class compares favorably to that 2013 class. Now, the 2016 class, the one right before Ole Miss went on probation and all that with A.J. Brown and DK, Shea Patterson, the whole lot. If you look at 4 stars there's like 14 or 15 of them. At that point, Ole Miss was established. They were getting ready to go. If the NCAA would have left Ole Miss alone, Ole Miss was getting ready to just really take off. It just was. The recruiting was at a whole nother level. But that class, the 2016 class, can't happen without the 2013 class. This class is favorable to the 2013 class. And will allow the 2023 class to really kind of take off. Now, Ole Miss, 18, 19 high school players every year, and the rest in the portal. I think that is the way they're going to recruit. This year is an aberration. Don't everybody freak out about what college football looks like. They could play this year at 105 scholarships. They had to get down to the 85 this year. There's going to be a lot of players processed. That's the reason all these players left, was to get down to that 85 and get where you want to be. But that is what they did. And because of that, lots of players get processed, or they're further down the depth chart than you should normally be. Well, I know I say it all the time, but it is what it is. And because of that, Ole Miss is in a very good position to overhaul their roster, since this year they can sign 32. And that 32, they're processing. They're trying to get as many as they can, as close to the 32 as possible. They came into this season with a numbers crunch. And they're just trying to work around it and get people in there. By the way, Southern Mississippi, what they're doing right now, they're going to be better next year. They are basically taking the second string players from Ole Miss and State and giving them a starting job. I mean, it's actually quite interesting, quite brilliant. Will Hall has it going pretty good down there in Hattiesburg. So, hey, Ole Miss, Locked On Ole Miss podcast. This is Stephen Willis with an incredible app everyone who buys gas needs to know about. GetUpside. My listeners are earning cash back for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free GetUpside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Use promo code SCORE for college for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first fill up. Cash back. Do not pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using GetUpside. Just download the app for free and use promo code SCORE for 25 cents per gallon or more on your first tank of gas. Some people who drive a lot are making as much as $200 or $300 a year in cash back, and there's no catch. The cash back gets added straight to your account. You can cash out at any time or go to your bank account or PayPal or an e-gift card for Amazon or other brands. Just download the free GetUpside app and use promo code SCORE to get 25 cents per gallon or more cash back on your first tank. That's code SCORE. So that seems like all right, we've talked about how the events that have happened to yesterday and to we think at this point, whatever. We talked about how we should view this recruiting class with a historical comparison. Now let's talk about what will this offense look like, because this defense has a chance to be fairly good. It just legitimately does. And the offense has a chance now to be fairly special. This was an 8-4 team predicted before Jaxson Dart and Michael Trigg. Those two coming on makes them a predicted 9-3 team. Predicted 10-2 team. The drop-off will not be significant at all. I mean, Jaxson Dart has 3 years of eligibility left over. Now, we're expecting him only to use 2, but he has a chance to be fairly special. Jaxson Dart is a 6'3", 215-pound version of Matt Corral, who was 6'1" and 190. And Jaxson Dart's just a bigger version of that. He's a gunslinger like Matt Corral. That is his comparison. That is his comp, Matt Corral. Now, experience has to be learned. Matt Corral struggled in 2019. Matt Corral threw 5 interceptions or more twice in 2020. Matt Corral was a really good quarterback in 2021. So those growing pains and that learning curve is going to be the difference between 8-4 and 10-2. Likely. Ole Miss has an excellent schedule to ease whoever the quarterback is in next year. I think other than Kentucky, Ole Miss should be favored in every game, and Ole Miss might be favored against Kentucky. They have a chance to start 6-0. And if they start 6-0, you have a team that's going to get confidence, because in every team sport, everything is about confidence. Everything that just makes you successful in everything is about confidence. And that confidence is going to be at an all-time high if they start 6-0. Even because at that point they go to LSU, they go to Texas A&M, they get Bama at home, they go to Arkansas, they get State at home, and then I think Vanderbilt's on there as well. But I think that game's in Nashville as well. So it's going to be an interesting situation. But with Jaxson Dart and Michael Trigg, those are major cogs on this team. Zach Evans, who was once the number 1 running back in the country, he's already in the top 5 players to watch for next year. He's on this team as well. And everybody that is worried and wondering about wide receivers, don't. Jonathan Mingo is going to do what he does. On the other side, Braylon Brown is holding a down position. In the slot, J.J. Henry and Jalen Knox is in position. Brandon Buckhalter is in position on one of the sides, and Jordan Watkins is also in position on the sides. There's 6 right there. That's 6 deep. That's not even including who they signed this year with Jeremiah Dillon and those guys that they've already signed. You're going to have this team compete at a high level. Just period. And most of those guys are 4 stars and better. That's the wide receiver room is the room where recruiting has not been a problem for this team. By the way, Jeremiah Dillon gets the award for the Nick Broker of this class. What does that mean? That means he's fairly highly ranked on every recruiting service except Rivals, which put him at 5.5, the lowest rated 3-star you can get, and that has blown up his consensus ranking on other services. It's a major drag. The same thing happened with Nick Broker. Nick Broker ended up starting. So I'm real curious about that. On3 and 24/7, and those guys have it at fairly high up. Jeremiah Dillon, he's a smooth operator out there, catching passes. He could play a little bit next year. He's a good player. So I think that expectations need to raise for Ole Miss. We went into this season expecting, after the people that left, we went into this season expecting a drop-off back to 7-5. I'm just thinking of a number. And that's 3 games, and honestly, that makes sense. If you go on the road to A&M, that's going to be a hard game. You still have Bama on your schedule. You have to go to Tiger Stadium. We don't know what that's going to look like. Auburn, for whatever reason, I expect them to be the 7th best team in the conference in the division, but they have voodoo over Ole Miss for whatever reason. And it's natural to expect the team to drop back because Matt Corral was a generational quarterback. Now, I do think the Matt Corral doing everything for his team was overplayed. I genuinely think that. Great player, everything done, but if he meant everything to his team, they would have not finished the way they finished. The defense actually carried that team over and over again, which kind of is the antithesis of what people were trying to argue, and that is probably why Matt Corral finished 7th in the Heisman and didn't get invited to New York, because that argument of, oh, he's everything for this team gets blown out of the water when the defense is playing that well. I do expect Matt Corral to do good things on the next level, and good luck to him. But Jaxson Dart, Michael Trigg at tight end. This is a weapon tight end because we saw with Kenny Yeboah how the tight end can be used in this offense, and Michael Trigg is almost a next level version of a tight end. It's going to be really interesting to see what he can do. It's going to be fun. Then you have Jalen Knox, who they're extremely high on. J.J. Henry, who is a Jalen Waddle type slot receiver. He's more of a speed guy than a quick guy. He's not a phone booth guy necessarily. Braylon Brown would have been a 5-star. Would have been a 5-star if we had a normal recruiting cycle where he could develop up. He's a big-time player. Do not be surprised whenever he starts making plays next fall and just doesn't stop. And Jonathan Mingo, he gets to be the alpha. He gets to be the daddy of that wide receiver room. Offensive line, Mason Brooks, Nick Broker, Jeremy James, Eli Acker, and possibly Caleb Warren on that. Plenty of experience on that offensive line. The offense, I am not worried about at all. Not even a little bit. I'm not worried about them. Defensively, I think they're going to be something similar to last year. Defense got a lot better with the addition of Jacob Springer, Akeem Young coming in, Tysheem Johnson, and then you have Otis Reese playing. One of them's going to play in the box safety. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that group of safeties. And A.J. Finley playing in the free safety position, with the corners playing a little bit differently. But they'll be very effectively, as you can see, as you saw by their numbers last year. That they were difficult to throw the ball on for what they were doing. Because of that, I do think Ole Miss needs a kicker. If Caden Costa is not going to be back for next season until the end of next season, I do think we need a kicker. Unless you just want to go into it and just kind of roll the dice and like, okay, we'll do what we have to do. anyway, I'm expecting expectations to rise with this team, and they're going to warrant it, honestly. So, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. We will continue the Jaxson Dart Michael Trigg watch until it reaches its conclusion. Should be a lot of fun. If it happens in between podcast recordings, expect an extra video. I'm really, really proud, and I've got an excellent thumbnail for if and when it happens. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all of your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling, is free and available on all platforms. Anyway, like I said, we're recording at a little after 10 o'clock Eastern. Nothing has happened to this point. If something does, like I said, you'll get an extra video early. You're not going to have to wait a whole day for reaction if something happens. And I hope everybody has a lot of fun. I love the transfer portal. This is absolutely fun. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. Our first video, they got over 1,000 views, is out right now. Very fired up about that. I think we're at 2.5 weeks in. So to get to that point is pretty great. So thank you very much. And of course, hotty toddy.